changed for me some years ago. It was in the early 80s, and I confess that I was even worse than I am right now. Okay, so it was a smaller church, but also there was less help around here. And so I was working some long hours, and every night Melody had gotten frustrated with me, and she would say, okay, dinner's, what time you want dinner? I'd say 6 o'clock, but I never got home for dinner. She said, though the food was on the table, I never got home for dinner before 6:15, 6:20, 6:30. And then as often as not, after dinner, I would kiss the kids goodbye, 3 kids under the age of 6, and run back to church for meetings. I mean, they were important meetings, or I wouldn't have been part of them. And they really were important meetings, whether it was board meeting, missions meeting, meetings with Sunday school, whatever. And then something else happened. I had a phone call and a letter from a publisher. I just finished the Romans series sometime before. It had gotten some wider circulation. He said, the publisher said, we're coming up with a commentary series for the New Testament. It's academic, but in such a way that we not only want scholars to use it, but pastors. And I'd like you to do it. I've been listening. I've heard some of your message. And I'm thrilled. This is the answer to a lifelong dream. This is something I thought I was supposed to do eventually and so forth. And he said, hey, everybody, you have 4 months. This is September. You have 4 months. Study the book. I want you to do the book of Romans. I go, wow, most important book in the New Testament. Amazing. I'm so thrilled. And so September, he said, 4 months. We're going to have a meeting in December, mid-December. I want you to have studied the book thoroughly to understand and so forth. Write an introduction. Write 1 chapter at least. Okay, for me, that would be 1/16 of the book. For the guy who's doing Jude, done, baby. So anyway, every night, September to December, after supper, I went downstairs. Melody kept the kids upstairs. I went downstairs to my study, and I read book after book, dozens of books on the book of Romans. It was a hot time for Romans. Had a lot of books to read. Studied it over those next 4 months. Kids are playing upstairs, 3 hours, 4 hours every evening. When it came time for December, I'd send down my chapter and stuff, and I go down and I'm feeling pretty good about this and so forth. I drive down to Texas. We all sit around in this room. They've looked at the chapters and they pay me some great praise. This is a model chapter. This is great. Looking forward to this. Now, everybody, we're excited about having this. We want to have some more talking with a couple of you. So anyway, I'm feeling really good about this. And then they say, okay, we need to have the books done. We need to have it ready. Publication date in 18 months. I got, okay. Took me 3-4 months to do 1 chapter. Got 15 chapters left. And I'm thinking, I've missed out this fall on my kids. Totally. Haven't played with them. So forth, because I had a higher calling. And I'm really quiet. And I just nod. And in the car on the way back, maybe somewhere in Oklahoma, I'm just really feeling convicted. I'm thinking, am I willing to give up the next a year and a half? For what? Okay, I like the money that they're offering. I like the fame of having a commentary, but there'll be dozens of other commentaries out and so forth. Really? I'm talking to God. Somewhere around Oklahoma City, I make a decision. I redraft my calendar, basically, in my head. I get home. I make a phone call. I say, you know what? Just looking at my calendar, my quietly redrafted calendar, I'm just not going to be able to make this. I'm so sorry. Feel free to use the chapter any way you want, but I'm sure you can find somebody else to do the job. And that changed it for me. Basically, I'd written in home on my calendar at least 4 nights a week. And I started getting home at 6 o'clock on time for supper. And I started playing and praying on my knees on the floor with my kids 4 nights a week. Simply changing my calendar to fit the answer to the question, what are the most important things in my life, changed the person I became. Even by then, even by 8-9 years of ministry, I had heard enough older men say, I've had a great career, I've done it, but the one thing I regret is I didn't spend more time with my kids. I made a vow, a holy vow. I did not want to be an average dad. I wanted to be a great dad. I wanted my kids kicking me out of the house rather than needing to spend more time there. And so I was able, as my kids were growing up, to look across the game with them at night, whether it's a game of sorry or puzzle or quizzing them or whatever, and say, I'd rather be here at home with you and anywhere else in the world.